Well, hello everyone. Can you guys hear the sound of my voice this time?
I can.
Thumbs up. Fantastic.
Can
Well,
you hear me?
that's a better start than last time. So it looks like the live stream is up and running properly, as best as I can tell here. And let's see what else I can tell.
Looks like I'm bogging down here. Okay, that'll work.
Well, we are promptly on time here, so we'll give a couple minutes for folks to make their way in. But welcome everybody to the weekly panel discussion for We Are J6. We have Dr. Gold joining us so far, as well as Jared Wise and Captain Chris Cooney. Thank you guys for being here so much. Hoping that Brandon Struck will be joining us momentarily as well. And let's see. Okay, I think we're good to get going here. I will open us up as usual with acknowledgement to our Heavenly Father and just a prayer for his blessing over this effort and our country. Heavenly Father, we invite you into this time and space right now. We just come humbly before you, God, as people that are struggling with a lot of difficult things right now. We're also in an interesting moment with a lot of hope and optimism, but I know that there's still so much pain and suffering that's going on. God, we lift up the remaining hostages that are still held at this time. You know who each one of them are and that what their stories are. We just pray for your supernatural power to intervene, God, for your grace to overwhelm them, to set them free. We pray that you would set them free imminently, God. And we also just ask for your wisdom to fill this group, and that you would give us strength and compassion and joy, and help us to succeed in our mission of unifying all of these folks and their families and the country in a mission that we can all believe in to restore justice in this nation. We thank you for all these things in our Heavenly Father's name. Amen. Awesome. So Dr. Gold, we do not yet have Brandon. I'll try to see where he is. But if you don't mind kind of getting us started for where we're at this week, given maybe some legal theory updates and also just kind of where we are in terms of unifying the group and collecting these stories so we can help really inform the public about what this is and why it's so important.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. So just to reiterate, we are doing wearej6.com because we want to change the national narrative on this, and we want to help make the lives better of individual J6 defendants who were put through hell. Those are the twin goals. We are open to everybody in the J6 community, and we don't participate in any intra J6 fighting. I just had a conversation with somebody. I'm like, nope, we don't get involved in that. We are there for all of the J6 to help change the narrative and to help individual J6ers. It's more easy for me than others probably because I don't know all the details of within J6 issues. So we just stay above, and that's our intent. So in terms of the legal, it's actually been a little bit, I don't know, slow going. We have not yet identified attorneys. It has to be a team of attorneys to bring a demand to the Department of Justice. I have faith that we will, but there's a lot of there are a lot of obstacles. The overall arching question, can there be class action? There's differing opinions. Most people still kind of think no. I'm still holding on that could be a yes. And you have to have civil lawyers, and you really have to have, in my opinion, a J6 criminal defense attorney who's really familiar with the ins and outs. Like, you have to have both. But a criminal defense attorney by themselves really can't do this because you are going in a civil way and you have to follow certain procedures to get there. The ultimate goal being to put a demand letter in front of the DOJ. So I just wanted to share with you that we have not yet identified lawyers to pick up this case, and we will, but it's not there yet. So we're not telling you stuff. There isn't something specific to tell you. At the same time, We have sent out on this website, We Are J6, an email you should have received that is asking people to write down their harms. And we've put it together. We think we've covered pretty much all the potential harms people have. And we're asking people really to go through it, their name, of course, their demographics, but really like what you've gone through, what you've endured, because this is going to give some sense of the numbers and quality types of harms that people have gone through. That would be helpful in presenting to lawyers and say, do you think this could become a class action? So please take a look at that. And we are not every day, but every few days, I continue to have conversations with lawyers about moving this forward legally. And then, of course, the other big area is comms, and that is not my area. So I'll turn that back to either John or Brandon.
Just a quick note on.
I'm so sorry, John. I just forgot one thing. I apologize.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't want anyone to think that there's this massive urgency on the legal either, because a lot of stuff is happening legally, and we don't know exactly what the landscape is going to look like even a month from now. I mean, we all saw the news yesterday, what Ed Martin did, like he just fired a bunch of prosecutors. So, one of our goals is for me, is to get an impeachment hearing of these judges and of the prosecutors. And if you have people like Ed Martin who are just going to take some of these prosecutors out, that's a whole lot easier. So we're not in a hurry, but I do want to approach it with urgency, but I also don't think people need to be worried yet in any way. Thank you.
On the comms related to the emails for submitting table of harms or persecution details, and then also the persecution testimonial videos. I did see in the comments some folks have said they did not receive the emails, so I will check on that this week and try to figure out what's going on. The email addresses, or when you receive an email, it's now coming from info@wearej6.com, to my knowledge. So you would want to whitelist that, make sure that that's coming to your inbox. If you are a defendant and you've registered as a defendant, you also want to make sure you whitelist defendants@wearej6.com. That's for defendants only. But the group emails related to materials and helping to grow and support the group generally are coming from info@wearej6.com. Brandon, I'm glad that you are here, and just curious, what your thoughts are at this point in the game.
Hey, everybody. First of all, familiarizing myself for the moment with the StreamYard technology. I'm trying to join you in the chat, but it's making me connect to my YouTube account. So I'll be with you guys in the chat in just a minute. Was just finishing that up. First of all, this is the first meeting that I've attended in something like 3 or 4 weeks. So I want to apologize for my absence and tardiness and all of those things. But first and foremost, I want to say congratulations to everybody on the call who's watching. Congratulations on your pardon. Congratulations on your vindication. Congratulations on the first step towards kind of putting the pieces of our lives back together and moving forward. I, for one, want to say that, look, I think Dr. Gold and John and Derek and a number of other J6ers, many of you probably attend X spaces that either listen to or participate in. So you've probably heard me express skepticism many, many times over the last couple of years, wondering if we'd all be kind of left in a lurch regarding pardons. I was deeply concerned about it. I really wondered if, one group of people was going to and another wasn't, or if it was going to be some staggered thing where this group and then later this group and then later this group, and we're left going, why is he getting pardoned and I'm not getting pardoned? I just think it was the best possible way to do it. Like, one and done. I know that there's still, a remaining about 14 cases they're going to look at. I personally believe he will probably pardon everybody in a matter of time. But I just want to say congratulations to everyone. And I just feel like it was handled really well, doing it on day one for everybody, because now we can just not even worry about that piece of it, the if and maybe and whatever, and we can just kind of come together and try to figure out now what's next for all of us. As we kind of work our way through figuring out what the legal avenues are and what that's going to be for all of us, I personally am taking advantage of the opportunity to call out people who participated in all of this destruction. And so for me, that includes the prosecutors in my case. I got to say, I was, I kind of mentally got into a mind frame of believing that no one or not that many people really care about what we go through or are willing to support, because it was like that for so long in the first years. But I put a post out yesterday on X calling out the two prosecutors in my life who made my life a living, in my case, who made my life a living hell. One was named April Russo. The other was named Brittany Reed. I put it out thinking, if a few hundred people are willing to share this, great. I think as of now, it's approaching something like 40,000 reposts and I don't know, like 80,000 likes. So I'm not going to, necessarily give advice to anybody here, but I think that we all probably are in agreement that the people who did this to us should be revealed, should be exposed, should be brought to account in one way or another. And I'm definitely a big advocate and believer in sunlight is the best disinfectant. So I've been calling people out openly. And I had to kind of take a deep breath. But yesterday, I even named the FBI agent in my case by name. I'm having conversations in the background with attorneys and trying to have conversations with people, within the vicinity of the DOJ to find out what the risk might be in calling out some of these FBI agents by names, because I imagine some of them probably still work at the department and shouldn't. But I wanted to put that out there because I don't want us to be afraid anymore. Again, I don't want to give people advice that puts them in a bad situation, but I also want to encourage people to remember that we do have power now, and we're not alone. And we're not the people who are living under the might and the umbrella of a government that's trying to crush us. We have allies now, and we have power. And I think that we need to use that power to bring the people that did this to us to account. And one of the ways I'm doing that is calling them out, exposing them. And I think that we should be doing a lot more of that going forward and making sure that these people become unemployable and that these people have to, live under the circumstances that we were made to live under for the last 4 years. That to me is justice. So I'll leave it there for the moment, but happy to talk about anything else, John.
Yeah, that was great, Brandon. Thank you.
Can I interject?
Yeah,
so
please.
Brandon, I saw that your tweet, it shocked me. And I just want to tell you, I am going to expose my prosecutors by name. I thought it was a fantastic idea. So thank you for that. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, Dr. Gold, I feel like we should discuss, using that concept, growing that, tapping into the whole J6 community here, because I'm sure all of them have stories. Oh, Brandon, something that you have mentioned, in recent weeks is the incredible freedom and just this incredible experience of having the weight lifted off where you weren't able to tell the truth, right? So I think that's a really important point. All of us have that now. Everyone here, everyone in the J6 community, certainly every former defendant, I like to refer to us now as J6 Patriots because we are not defendants, we are exonerated. But all of us have a complete freedom now to speak the truth. And I think it's really important that we take that and use it. We don't want to just say, oh, well, thank goodness, that's sort of over and I'll just move on to the next thing. And I'm not saying any of us are doing that or suggesting it as much, but the fact that we have this freedom to completely tell the truth and set the record straight on false plea deals and on other lies and fraudulence that the government perpetrated and that people outside of the government as well. There's just a lot of truth telling that needs to take place. And I'm really hoping that we are J6, that we can unify and amplify all of these truths so that they are as maximally powerful as possible. Go ahead, Brandon.
Sorry. Something just occurred to me while you were talking, which is that, some of us in this group and on this panel may have a large social media following, a lot of support on there, or even perhaps some more direct connections to people in the administration who might be able to help us. And so some of the people in the chat or watching might be thinking to themselves, there's nothing I'd love more than to expose the people who did this to me, but I don't have a very large following. And what if there's some sort of retribution or something that comes back on me? Like, who will know? I think that could be a legitimate concern for people. And perhaps it might be a good idea for us to either create, I don't know, like an email account or some sort of sign up form or something where if somebody is facing some sort of backlash for anything that happens to them, that they have an avenue to get that out to the rest of us so that we can, rally around and support that person and make sure that they don't feel alone. I don't know. That just might be something worth getting into.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'm just curious about how to facilitate that, but I think those are the various things we want to be able to accomplish with this group. Captain Cooney and Jared Wise, we're also grateful to have you guys on. Please jump in if you had any thoughts on those points.
I just wanted to dovetail off of something Brandon just talked about. So I did have a discussion with my defense attorney, and I just want to caveat, right? So we are J6, but we are also better, right? So everything that we do, our messaging, communications, everything that we do needs to be above board. That's people on the panel, that's people that are in here, because I've seen a lot of discussions about retribution, and I tend to stay away from that term retribution and look at the terms of accountability and justice, because by proxy, it's semantics, yes, but by proxy, justice and accountability does equal retribution. So I just want to make sure that when we're messaging and we're talking about those things, I'm all about, naming people by who they are responsible for the acts that occurred to us over these last 4 years. But I just want to be clear, I've been doing the same thing, but when you do it, be above board at all times, right? When you're talking about these people, don't use language that's insightful, just state the facts and simply the facts and stay to that. And so I've looked at some of Brandon's posts. He's definitely been sticking to the facts of that case when he's calling these people out. And that's what we need to do. Don't use hyperbole or anything like that. So I just want to kind of throw that out there because we are better.
Amen to that. Thank you for sharing. And I think that is excellent and very important to remember as we continue forward. Jared, what were your thoughts?
One, I like Brendan's idea of creating sort of a backup for people that are attacked or come into trouble. I think that's a good idea. And I think that can be an important role of We Are J6 or maybe the J6 Alliance X account as well. And then secondly, just to also bolster Brandon's point, I think we have as a group some connections to DOJ and the FBI that are pretty strong. So I think when the time is right, those will become evident and can be helpful. So I think we'll continue to develop those, but I think people can just take comfort that there are some steps being taken in that regard.
Excellent. Like we mentioned, we do have a form built for folks to submit written details related to harms and persecution and lies and fraud related to prosecutors and judges. So we discussed that last week, and we have that, I think, almost finished to be sent out to the group pretty shortly. So that'll give you an easy link to submit those materials through the website. Brandon, your idea was great. So perhaps we build some kind of an upload form if someone has a particular issue, such as retaliation or fear, things that are coming up now, post the last 4 years, because that is interesting. And I'm just curious for everyone's thoughts about how to most effectively coordinate these various stories and build some momentum that the whole country and the whole world, is going to be impacted by. I forget who posted this, but I saw a video of a J6 defendant who was an older gentleman, and he and his son were both charged. I think it was misdemeanors only, but the government forced them to not talk to each other, threatening them with, I think, more charges or whatever if you had any contact with I don't even know how that's legal because they're literally family, but that's what was done. And his son passed away by the time he got pardoned. So he didn't have any communication or relationship really with his son for a year or more while he was probably dealing with prison or whatever else he had going on. And then, he'll never get his son back. His son is gone. It's just, heart-wrenching story, and I'm sure there are hundreds and hundreds of these. And I think it's just critical for the country to come face to face with this. Those are some of the unexpected or unanticipated sort of fallout details that you don't expect. I think there's a ton of that that we want to find and share.
John, that was definitely not an isolated incident. I just wanted to let you know. I'm also aware of at least one other case of a mother and son co-defendants that were not allowed to have interaction with each other, and that like went on for years. So this did happen more than once, where family members were separated and you know, a number of things. So
it's just it's insane. It's terrible. And I think those will be very effective stories. So I want us to be able to coordinate those and share them. And we definitely can use, I think, the We Are J6 platform in terms of the, you know, social media profiles and the website. We want to actually build up this library of the J6 former defendants with their photos, so people can put a face to the name and see these are these people, and details. So the submission form that we've spoken about that'll allow us to collect that stuff. But I think those are really important things to work on in these next few weeks as we also continue investigating legal avenues. But sharing these stories and really enlightening the public, particularly the public that's already generally supportive. I think, to me, that's almost the most interesting part, where they think they know and they think they support us as a J6 community, but most of them really don't know hardly anything about the reality of what we've all gone through and what many people are still going through. So,
hey, John, can I interject real quick? Something you just keyed a thought in my mind also. And I think the We Are J6 platform can be used in multiple avenues, because everybody that is on this panel, everybody that's a J6er had a prosecutor, an FBI agent, somebody involved in their case somewhere. So I will be completely transparent. Garrett O'Boyle was a whistleblower, and he was at the raid on my house that day. And he literally has come to me asking for forgiveness for what happened. Who am I not to give that to him, right? So I think what we also need to do on this platform is also encourage those agents, encourage some of those people that were, does it necessarily make what they did any better? No, it doesn't. But if we can encourage those people to come forward, that is just going to give us more ammunition and fire to go forward with what we're trying to do, right? It's going to create resolution on a lot of different fronts for us as far as We Are J6 and a lot of the individuals that are J6ers that have gone through this for 4 years. So what I would also encourage is, that outreach, that community, that program. There's a lot of family members that are out there that might know a person that was an FBI agent and might give him this information, might encourage him to speak up, be a whistleblower. So I would also encourage on that front to also, I'm having trouble thinking of the word, but be very direct about our messaging, but also being open about receiving people that most people perceived as doing wrong, and encourage them to come out and talk to us and talk to other people about what they went through in relation to what happened to us.
Yeah, that's powerful, Captain Cooney. We've been talking over the last number of weeks about the importance of pursuing national healing, and that's a reason why this pursuit of restorative justice is so important. And that's why I continue to encourage people to share We Are J6 with their friends in the world, with this idea that this is a completely nonpartisan mission. In fact, it's about bringing people together. So you cannot have justice and healing without accountability and acknowledgement and honesty. So of course, many of the perpetrators at various levels have not acknowledged what was wrong or what they have done. and so of course they need to, and we need to continue calling for that. But certainly if there are those who are willing and are stepping forward to engage in that kind of a conversation, that would be very exciting. And absolutely, we would want to welcome that, with grace. So that's a cool point that you're making, and I hope to hear more of that, of course. Like you said, we want to remain above board, but we are very determined. We understand that our position is righteous, and so we're going to proceed on that basis. But yeah, I hope we hear more of that. Do you have something you wanted to say, Brandon? I'm gonna.
Not at the moment. I mean,
Okay.
I have plenty to say at any given time.
But I know you do.
Yeah, but at this moment, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I'm actually gonna bring our friend Suzanne Monk up on the stage here. Suzanne, thanks for joining us, and thank you, of course, for your incredible, tireless efforts for years now. I was just curious if you have a specific update on the remaining hostages, and then, of course, any comments you had just in terms of what we've been discussing about sharing, capturing, and amplifying these stories as we continue to pursue the mission of We Are J6.
Yeah, thank you guys for having this space and for your continued efforts as a team. It has really been a community, a grassroots community that made all of this possible, that got these pardons through, that have gotten the results we have, and we're still fighting with what I call the deep state DOJ. We've seen a lot of firings yesterday. Certainly they're trying to root out that deep state DOJ, but we do have several hostages still remaining because what appears to be a deliberate miscommunication between perhaps the U.S. Attorney's Office or perhaps the custodial division of the U.S. Marshals deliberately, so that these releases cannot be secured. And that's the case for Jeremy Brown. We all know the case of Jeremy Brown, Green Beret, his charges. It is deemed that they are included in that related to clause. The president was very clear in putting that related to J6 clause. And in many cases, there have been good lawyers and good prosecutors, ones that are at least willing to do their jobs, that have already processed that legal reality, and those folks have been released. But we have these holdovers in these very deep blue counties that are literally deliberately not taking phone calls, turning off their fax machines, and engaging in a deliberate effort to stop that legal closing of the gap so that release can happen. It's the same thing for Daniel Ball. It's the same thing for Dominic Fox. So those three all are situations in the state of Florida where we have unfortunate, stalwarts and very tedious, suffering individuals in the government that are making these blocks. We have a lot of people working on a lot of levels to get that done. And I want to thank Congressman Michael Cloud's office. They have been working directly with my Vice Chair, Tricia Pinto-Cope, to secure the release of these individuals, to work through those little legal wranglings. And he's got to see firsthand the continued lawfare that these individuals are facing. There's a similar situation with Taylor Toronto. He is the last remaining J6er here in D.C., and I know his attorney, Carmen Hernandez, is working very hard, even on Saturday, as I mentioned her today, to try to secure his release. Of course, we have the same problem here, some deep blue remnants that are remaining resistant. And it's the same thing with Benjamin Martin out in California, who is, had to turn himself in on the 22nd. It is a J6 search related charge. In fact, Benjamin was in his girlfriend's house. It wasn't his house. It was his girlfriend's gun safe. He didn't have the code. It wasn't his guns. It was his girlfriend's gun. And when the FBI raided his girlfriend's house and tried to get to the guns, they used the jaws of life to tear open the safe and charge this man with another person's guns. And that's why Benjamin Martin sits in jail right now. He is actually in a facility, a corporate facility run by the U.S. Marshals as a way station in their diesel therapy circuit. And we need to take a look at this. And I'm really happy that Congressman Michael Cloud is getting to see this firsthand. As he said to Tricia, there needs to be immediate and real reform in the Department of Corrections and the Bureau of Prison System. So we've got a lot of work going forward. And I need to mention the case of Edward Kelly. Let us not forget him. He sits in Blount County, Tennessee. He was entrapped by the FBI twice during his J6 trial. He was actually entrapped by another January 6th defendant the FBI used as a confidential human source to entrap him into an alleged plot to hurt the FBI, to attack the FBI. He, just as the J6 case, they took his texts and comments out of context, applied it. Now he sits convicted of that, but not yet sentenced. He faces up to life in prison. And we need to keep advocating for Edward Kelly because he deserves perhaps an additional pardon from the president for that, or some sort of legal expansion so that can be included. And frankly, there are a lot of individuals still facing some belligerent judges and belligerent state's attorneys who have those potential charges that may be related to their search, and they are still facing probation requests to surrender. So we have to keep working on that. And then we have to understand this, and this should frighten every single American. There are thousands and thousands of individuals that were under investigation by the FBI for January 6th, and they might not even know it. And you can be on those exact same lists that Mark Huddle was on when his name was pulled up by that Indiana police officer. So we have a real problem in this country right now that we need to get cleared. We need to clear house. And as Brandon has said, we need to keep pushing on the further rectification and adjudication of the wrongs that have been done, because that's the only way we're actually going to get ourselves untrapped from the deep state trap that has actually trapped far more than the 1,600 plus January 6th defendants that have been given charges.
Yeah, thank you so much, Suzanne. Dr. Gold, did you have any thoughts related to the judges? Right, because we talked last week about collecting evidence of specific things judges have done, and we'll get that form out. But anything related to like continued judicial malfeasance, if that's the right phrase?
I don't have anything specific, but I want to, if you can bear with me, indulge me, and so I can say the same thing I said last week, which is we all have different angles, but my particular axe to grind of all the various things that have gone wrong, I want to go after the judges. For me, they are the last line of defense. They could have refused at the very end to not go along with all of the scams. They're individuals. They are personal. The buck stops with them. Same as my work as a doctor in the ER, the buck stops with me. Last person who could have stopped this was the judges. It also scares people when they see specific people taking heat. So I'm very interested in judicial malfeasance.
And judicial accountability. When you say go after the judges, of course, we mean legally and politically.
Correct. But, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well,
judges,
Simone, let me offer. No, I wanted to quickly let me offer, reach out to me and I will give you access to the J6 defendants database. You can actually sort all of these cases and their details, convictions, charges, sentences, et cetera, by judge. So I think that might be helpful in your research.
Suzanne and everyone, what I'm really looking for are specific words that judges said from the bench or on their social, but I haven't seen judges say things on social that's like directly contradictory to their line of work. But things they've said that are inconsistent with being a judge, such as the word insurrectionist. If their person in front of them is not charged with an insurrection, they can't be calling these people insurrectionists, such as very kind of hateful or prejudicial things against defendants. I need the evidence, the very specific things. So I invite every single J6er who remembers that their judge said something to go back to their transcript and look. And Suzanne, I'll work with you. If you have transcripts, what I can't do is make this my life's work. I will do the part I can do, which is see if this really qualifies and try to attach it to name. If we get even 10 judges where we have that, I know that our judge, John Strand, and my judge, Cooper, I know that if I have a friendly couple of congressmen who would bring this to committee, Cooper has said things that are inconsistent with judicial standards. And I know there's others. So that is, I think I'll say this every week. Please think about what your judge said. And if you have it on a transcript, and I'll work with you, Suzanne.
Well, yeah, and I think we might be able to look at which J6ers may have those particular judges that already we have evidence of that case, and then we might be able to find more. So that may be a useful way to use the tool. So yeah, reach out. I'm happy to help.
We also need to push. A lot of these cases are, unfortunately, I know that it happened. I had Judge Kelly. So a lot of these cases are, my case is sealed because of a confidential human source. And I know there's other J6ers are out there that are in the same boat. We really need to push for congressmen, senators, men and women, excuse me, but we need to push for that so that they make everything transparent and just put it out to the people. That would be the most beneficial thing for us. And that's what I'm also moving for. I don't know if Suzanne has any contacts in that regard to move that along.
Well, no, but I have some suggestions on who has been very helpful so far, and we should continue to work with these individuals. Of course, top of my list, Congressman Michael Cloud out of Texas, who literally over the last 3 days has loaned us an entire staffer just to work on these J6 releases. So we're very grateful to Congressman Michael Cloud. Thomas Massey was working directly with State Representative Josh Calloway up there in Kentucky when they were in Grayson, directly daily contacting the prison and working directly as well with Rand Paul's office. Rand Paul was very useful in that operation. And of course, we got a lot of help from Eli Crane here in DC. He spent the entire day here with us in DC on the days after release, helping to secure release, helping to bring other congressional pressure. You know, Chip Roy came by. Clay Higgins has been very strong. Corey Mills has been very strong. There have been, certain individuals that have done a lot in the past. I know Marjorie has been more effective in the past than maybe in recent. What have you done for me lately is politics, but these are the ones, that I mentioned that are doing something now. And so we should be reaching out to them and putting that fire, putting more wood. Once you got a fire under a Congress member, the more the people add log to that fire, the more result we get.
So yeah, I just want to make a note for everyone listening. We are J6 represented on X. And so just want to encourage people to engage with that profile, share stories, because we'll help to amplify them, share stories of all of the stories, but we could also share positive stories like Congressman Michael Cloud making a specific effort that's helpful, so that people start to see who's getting involved, who's doing the right thing, and we'll send some positive momentum their way as well. But yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Is it okay if I change the subject for a moment? I can wait if you...
No, please.
Okay. I'm sure probably a lot of you are aware that Illinois Governor Pritzker put out a memorandum in the last couple of days, essentially saying that any person of the 1,500 that were partnered, basically any person who was charged with January 6th is ineligible now to work in Illinois state government. I
got to sue him fast.
Right. Well, that's where I'm headed with this. So I would imagine there are probably limitless legal avenues to seek a legal remedy for something that's so egregiously unconstitutional. I'm just speaking off of the cuff right now because, I only learned of this within the last 24 hours and it's been a crazy day. But I would highly encourage any residents of the state of Illinois who were charged with January 6th and recently pardoned to go and apply to work for the Illinois state government so that they can reject your application for employment and sue them, because there is 0% chance that what he just did is constitutional. And there needs to be a counter offensive to every single thing that these people do to us. Like, gone are the days of us being bullied and intimidated and beaten down by government officials. It's not going to happen anymore. So, we can organize this a little more. We can maybe talk to some attorneys about what the options are. But if you live in the state of Illinois, I highly encourage you to consider going and applying to work for your government so that they can reject your employment application and you can take the next steps to sue your local government.
I would encourage everybody that's in every state to apply for a government job, Brandon, because I would garner say it's not just the state of Illinois. He's just being who he is, and he's being vocal about that. I think that leaves a lot of traction in a lot of different areas.
I agree with you, Chris, but I would say in this particular instance, he actually put out a directive and it's right in writing. There's no speculation at this point. It's not like, oh, are they not hiring me because I'm a J6er? He straight up said, we will not employ you if you were a participant in any way, shape, or form with January 6th. And don't even get me started on the fact that he referred to all 1,500 plus people as people who attack the police, insurrectionists, violence, etc., which of course is a minuscule percentage of the people who were charged. But I'm saying in this particular incident, it's in black and white. He wrote it down. Like, it's unambiguous. He said, you will not be able to work for the government. And there's absolutely no chance that that's legal or constitutional. Especially, we've been pardoned. I mean, it's over.
Specifically because of that, it's pretty shocking he would do that. Well, it's not shocking, but it's very interesting. Dr. Gold, are there any like direct angles on that? Because I mean, he's setting himself up as a target.
I think that's, again, I'm not surprised, Brandon. I think that's a great idea, and with Captain Cooney, just that apply to a federal job. I think that's fantastic. It's a great idea. And yeah, you're both right. He's probably more vocal, but the element of proof and causation is just easier when the governor has said that. It's like really black and white. I love that idea. May I repeat a question that I saw in the chat? If anybody has the answer to it. Joe Howe asked, has anyone tried to purchase a firearm? I'm just kind of wondering if anybody has experienced that yet since the pardon.
So, I mean, the day after Marina got me my pardon, I applied for my CCW license. But here's what I'm going to tell you. What you need to do first and foremost, take that pardon certificate and you need to file it as a memorandum in your actual case. So it is in the files. Okay. That is the most important thing that you can do. You also need to go to your local police, because whenever certain states have theirs, I used to be an FFL dealer, right? I used to run my own FFL business. So the other thing that you need to do is you need to go to your local police department, sheriff preferably if you have one, and file that as a memorandum on record as well. Because when you apply for a license through the system, right, an FFL dealer is going to look in the NICS system. The NICS system is run by the FBI. The FBI checks you and says, okay, here's what you have. So it's a good idea to find out at that point, are you still listed as a, obviously noted as a pardon in there, or are you still listed as a domestic terrorist? Those things are going to come up, right? So that will give you an avenue to find out, hey, is that stuff still exist? That NICS system is going to definitely tell you. Most jobs that you run for aren't going to look in the NICS system. They just do a generalized one. But yeah, I'm in the process now of getting all that stuff, and I'll probably purchase my first firearm here shortly, but I am getting my CCW back.
Question for you. You said you submit your pardon certificate. Yes. I had gone to the pardon website and it was old. It was outdated. It was from Biden years. Where does somebody get that? And can we drop that in the chat if you recall?
Yeah, so
I'm sorry, I can answer this real quick. You can actually go to the U.S. Pardon Attorney's website now. The link is active, and there is a link where you can click to actually apply for your certificate. You do not need the certificate. You can actually print out the language. The language is itself legal language. And we need exactly as you have said, it is so important to file it in your case. And in many of these situations, frankly, with these individuals who are still being incarcerated, their lawyers have not completed that very simple step of filing the pardon in the memorandum in their case, so it is noted in their case. Because just like I do and others do when we research an individual, they're going to look at that case, they're going to look at that docket and see how that case had closure. That is what the pardon language does. A lot of these attorneys have never had a client who has been pardoned while involved in his sentence in some way, because you can only get a pardon after you've been released for 5 years if you ask for it. So this is very new to a lot of attorneys, and a lot of them just have not done that one step because they don't understand it needs to be done, but it absolutely needs to be done. And you're going to need to make these extra steps at like filing with the sheriff's office, etc. You need to be your own advocate. You need to be your own pardon advocate. Do not wait for your attorney to do it. Pressure them to make these filings. It is so important to get these steps done to get as much of your freedom as possible. Yes.
And I know that this is a little bit above and beyond, Suzanne's talking about doing all these extra steps, but here's the other thing, right? I've talked to a couple different people as well. Every single state has an FBI field office. Okay. And Jared might be able to talk about this a little bit better, but the FBI runs the essentially the terrorism database, right? It comes up with, pseudonyms and all kinds of weird stuff whenever they run your name. I was also told, and I'm in the process of doing this now, they control the NICS system specifically. Take that pardon and send it to, I'll drop this, I'll try and look for it here in just a second. But you want to send that to your local field office as well. So it's annotated in the database in their system and say, look, I'm done, take me off this list. My attorney did most of that, so I know that I'm off that list for a fact. And I've got confirmation from my lead FBI agent from her that I was taken off that system, but it's going to take a little legwork because there might be some hanger-ons as far as J6ers that are still in that database and listed as domestic terrorists or whatever the case may be. But take that pardon certificate and give it to your FBI field office, a copy of it that is certified, return receipt, and addressed to the director, whoever. Jared, if you can interject on this, but send it in there, and that way it can be annotated in the system, and that's going to be key for the NICS system and the terrorism database.
So yeah. I'd like to get these ideas posted to the We Are J6 X account so that defendants, as they're joining and growing the alliance, can have reminders and access to these links on specific things that they should.
I'll do that today, John.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
I talked about, I'll make sure that happens right as soon as we get off.
Thank you,
Chris. Just to follow on some of those points, the terrorism watch lists are a complex process, and they're managed by a thing called the Terrorism Screening Center, which is run by the FBI. It's not part of the FBI, but the FBI, the director of it comes from the FBI. And being on, as we all know, being on the watch list can happen before you have charges or after charges are done. It's independent completely of charges. And it's one-sided. You don't get to argue against your inclusion. Once you're included, there's no appeal process. It's an entirely independent thing that they control by themselves. So I don't know exactly if that it helps to go and request it somehow. I heard that people have been taken off. I don't know that that's impacted by a request from an attorney. Maybe it is. I've been out for a while, but my understanding is it's just from the, at some point they have to review them and they have to renew them or take them off. But I don't think there's a lot of recourse, frankly, which is concerning. And then, but I think to Suzanne's point, I think once people are out, I think that's one of the huge issues to address as a group, is that whole concept. And maybe even just in general, this would be a chance for the left and right to come together to stop a very powerful civil rights abuse that happens to a lot of people. It started, frankly, it happened against Islamic suspects of terrorism, is how it was first used. And it's morphed. These guys realized they could take it and it would be a powerful tool against their political opponents. So I think it needs to be stopped or revised. And maybe this is a chance for momentum to build. In terms of NICS, if you look, I'm going to buy a gun as well. But if you look, when you apply for a gun and they do the background check, there are like 12 reasons that make you ineligible to buy a gun. And then there's another reason, which is like a general reason why you're not fit. So that's where we're all going to be denied probably. So I kind of like to Brandon's point with the jobs in Illinois, it might make sense. I'm not an attorney, but it might make sense to do this strategically, partner with one of the gun rights organizations. And Chris, you probably have an idea of how to do that, but I think maybe there could be a couple test cases to document things correctly, do it right, try to buy the gun, be denied, and then go from there. But I'm not an attorney.
Different states are going to be different. So I think it's important to look at that state by state. We have some states that have strong laws against felons owning guns. We also have some states that have red flag laws that are going to be used. And so I think there's a way to fight both of those cases, understanding, which states are best to apply leverage. So I think this is a good idea.
Agreed.
I live in Arizona, so it's the wild, wild west out here, so it doesn't really matter. But on to, Jared's point, I just want to say, I like literally have an email from the lead FBI agent that said I've been removed. And I asked Marina specifically to put pressure on him. That's not something I can post because it has name information and a bunch of other stuff. But we are our own best advocates, just like John has said. And if there's people out there that might be confused or might be having a little bit of difficulty, reach out to one of us. I know I'd be more than willing to help anybody any way I can to help you advocate on your behalf. Any one of these panelists would be. But definitely reach out to us if you have a question, especially if you're, like Jared said, going to buy a firearm or some other questions like that. That's fine.
It's just clear that there's a lot of fallout from the defamation of J6ers over these last 4 years. So I just posted something about defamation lawsuits, and it got a lot of traction. People are very interested in that topic. But just Dr. Gold, the general idea of defamation, I mean, there's one case where you can say, oh, I want to consider suing a person for using defamatory statements that have harmed me specifically, but then it's almost sort of an extension of defamation where we're running into issues like people aren't being treated equally or properly by the government, whether it's a gun or, I mean, are there other civil rights issues or abuses that people are experiencing as the fallout from all of this?
As a practical matter, we just want the government to reverse these databases because that's really what's interfering with people's lives. Defamation as a legal matter is an incredibly difficult lawsuit to win.
Right.
And not really worth your time. But our best bet is really to have them corrected for the whole class and with people like Ed Martin. So I think there's a lot of J6ers that, Ed Martin knows, and these things will at some point be brought to his attention. That plus, Pam Bondi, these harms. That's one of the reasons of putting a legal demand letter in front of them. Like the work Brand. I'm so sorry. 1 second.
Well, why Simone is pausing, I will add this. I've called for the president to issue a supplemental executive order clarifying the intent and scope of the January 6th pardons, and I think it would resolve a lot of problems. So I think there are a lot of solutions that are going on right now through the DOJ, et cetera, and through the new leadership that's been put in place, and we're certainly working as many of those angles as possible. And I know many of us advocates are, but the president could, in fact, issue a supplemental clarifying executive order, and I have called for him to do that, and I think others have as well.
To help him along, if he doesn't, it's a great idea, Suzanne. To help him along, to do something like that, we would need specific examples. So these examples, like the person who was posting that she got an Airbnb back, that's great. Like if we can get these things back on our own, but when we run into obstacles that we can't solve on our own, that would be the kind of thing to look for. So we would need proof of that.
Yeah, agreed.
I also just wonder if we can try to be tagging congressional representatives in certain content and trying to build some public momentum and narratives around some of these specific issues where Congress people can be representing on our behalf and kind of calling their attention to that. So it's another thing that I would like to see We Are J6 be able to help facilitate. Brandon, I feel like you have more ideas to share.
Sorry, I've got like 13 windows open on my computer right now, and it took me a sec. I probably do. If you see my face reacting, please know that I'm kind of multitasking right now. I apologize. I'm not reacting to what's being said. But I will say, I don't want to say too much about this right now. I had an idea last night that I actually think is like a super banger idea. I'm not going to keep you guys. I promise by next week I'll tell you what the idea is. I just don't want to let it out right now because I want to talk to a few lawyers and I'll talk to you guys about it too. But it kind of hit me like lightning last night, and I was like, "Ooh, I think there's something that could be there in terms of opening the window for us getting a little justice on some of these articles that have been written about us, and possibly some significant action in getting them taken down and removed." So I'll talk to you guys about it, but I promise by next week I'll let you know. I just don't want to say before it's fully fleshed out.
Copy that.
Yeah.
And defendants in the group, former defendants, you have a direct email address, so you can email us. And and we will try to get more communication going to you on things that you're looking for. I saw someone in the chat mention a checklist would be helpful for things that we as former defendants can be doing. If you have a checklist written out or something helpful for the group, send that to us. We post it on the X profile, and we'll review that and help amplify that so that helpful ideas are being shared with everybody. And I just want to remind everyone and encourage everyone again to continue reaching out this next week specifically to former defendants, so we continue to grow the group and the unity and the solidarity of all these people joining together. I think will be just far more effective in that way. And of course, sharing with the general public. We have almost 1,000 advocates already registered, and I think we can get a lot more as we continue making progress with these efforts. And we'll get emails out to you about submitting materials and so forth. But you guys can also just be continuing to share stories that bring attention to what's going on either in the past or currently. And we want to continue just fostering that and helping to share and grow the impact of those stories. So.
Well, I just want to emphasize what John is saying, and I know directly from the individuals that we are communicating with, both through the congressman and through channels to the administration, the new DOJ. That pressure is what is keeping their attention on this issue. It is critical. It is critical for those who are still in jail. It is critical for those who are facing reincarceration, and it is critical for everyone who is impacted lawfully or unlawfully by these investigations, that we keep that pressure on. Otherwise, they will move on. That's politics. So please, definitely what John says, and more, we need to continue to pressure our representatives. We need to keep telling these stories. We need to keep the public informed and educating more people, because even now today, as we tell these stories, like I've told you about Benjamin Martin's situation, when people hear it, they are stunned at the corruption of our government that we are still facing and we are still rooting out. And we need those advocates in the fight. And frankly, I hope that once we have cleared for all J6ers, we're going to join the fight as a group for many other political prisoners that I am telling you are facing and have faced the exact same weaponization. And we as a community need to stay strong. That's how we got where we are. No one person did this all alone. We did this as a group. It is a miraculous grassroots operation that is the most amazing citizen community activism that has ever occurred in our country in modern history, in my opinion. And we need to keep that going, not only for our J6 family, but we need to keep it going for America. We need that rectification. And I think we're the ones who are best equipped to do it.
Very, very good. Well said. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you guys all for being here again this week and sharing your valuable time and participating in this effort. Just want to ask if anyone has any final questions, comments, or just ideas as we kind of aim towards next week and continuing to advance this mission. No. Everyone good for the time being? Awesome. Okay, you guys. Well, again, thank you. Thank you to everyone that is watching, listening, participating. Truly, we are really grateful for everyone that is here. We are empowered, and we are encouraged, and we are committed to restoring justice for these people and their families, and of course for our great country that we love so dearly. And these principles of justice are so important for everyone, not just those directly affected by J6, although many have been. So it is a universal and nonpartisan and unifying mission. We're grateful and proud to be a part of it. So thank you guys again for all joining us. We will see you again next Saturday, 12 noon Eastern. And again, please engage with the social media accounts for We Are J6. Of course, the website, share that for registration if you're sharing it with new folks, both defendants and advocates. But as you have ideas, stories, post and tag those on the We Are J6 profiles so we can help amplify and share that as we continue moving forward. All right, you guys, thank you so much. God bless you all. We just say a prayer again, God, to thank you for this time and for these people and for this great mission. And we invite your blessing and your provision and your wisdom and your just bless us with success, God, we ask in your name. And we thank you so much. All right, you guys, cheers, and we will see you soon. God bless everybody.